Today is the day that I ride the BMW K1600 GT SE. Heavyweight sport touring monster. Let's get into it. Today is a very special day. Today is the day I'm riding a 1600 and it's by the Germans. Hello, welcome to RevelatorAlf. I hope you're all well. So as you know, I'm on this search to possibly find this next bike that's going to be commuter, touring, capable, have a bit of power to it, good for two-up riding, or whether I just stick with my Harley, right? Come to BMW, those fine people at BMW have let me have a go on this K1600 GT SE. So it's got the side boxes on it and it can put a top box on it, but not from BMW. It's got to come from aftermarket, I believe. Whereas the K1600 GTL has a top box already and it can be removed, but the seat is slightly lower slung and also the bars a little bit further back. So it's a kind of a different riding position. It's almost like on the GTL, the screen and the head nacelle here is further away. Whereas this, because you sat up a bit more with this extra padded seat, it's more like you're in the bike a little bit. So it feels more like a normal riding bike. Whereas a GTL, which I've yet to try really, I really need to try that one. Whether that's more sort of touring, leisure riding. This is more you're in it and it's a more sporty feel. Hence the GT, the SE, which is the higher spec version. What do I think of it? Right, my concern with this, when you put a top box on it, what will it act like? What will it feel like? And also, is it going to be comfortable for two-up riding? I think it will, absolutely. But I'm just wondering whether the GTL is more for that overall touring. Take the top box off and you've essentially got just one of these, just with a slightly different riding position. And I'm thinking maybe that's better for me. Let's talk about this bike though. This bike is a heavyweight, right? It is definitely heavy, but not as heavy as, let's say, the other BMWs, let's say the Transcontinental R18, but it's a heavyweight. But my word, the power on it is just amazing. 1600 6-cylinder engine. And you think when you're riding it, it's almost like it hasn't got the legs. It feels a little bit cumbersome and slow to rev up. But it just powers through, and before you know it, you're getting up to speed limits and beyond if you're not careful. And then you twist it on a little bit more, and this is just in normal road mode, then all of a sudden it just opens up. Now, I knew this bike would be great on the motorway. I knew it would be great on the open road. I knew it would be great on dual carriageways. So I took her for a little spin on that. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant, no problem. Really planted. It felt as if you're on the bends, really lovely. When you're rolling into the bends on the back roads, it feels as if it wants to drop into the bend. It's got a really high roll rate for me, and I don't mind it, but you just got to be careful that you don't overcook it a little bit. It's a big heavy bike, so you've got to always have that in the back of your mind, or what I've got to have in the back of my mind. But when you put this in dynamic mode and you just let it fly, flip here now. As I say, big heavy bike. I love the seating position, the riding position. I love the way it feels. It's a big heavyweight, but it doesn't feel heavy unless you go to turn it slow speed. A couple of times I was off camber going uphill and I thought, whoop, this, you got to catch yourself. So you've got to get used to the weight, of course. I think one of these bikes, as it is fantastic if I was never going to take anybody with me, and if I didn't take a lot of equipment with me. But let's say for the tour, which I'm really looking for, let's say for carrying equipment or extra helmets, that kind of thing, which these boxes will take a full-sided helmet, but I'm talking about a top box here. I think I prefer the GTL that's got everything with it, and then I just remove the top box, which is relatively easy when I don't need it. I stand by what I said when I rode the K1600 B Grand America, is that in the road mode, it feels a little bit lackluster, and as I say, it's that throttle response more than anything. The power is there, it's just that throttle response. But when you twist it on, and then especially when you put it in dynamic mode, as I say, it's a rocket. It is a heavyweight rocket ship, this bike. And I'm sure the GTL is exactly, it's underneath, engine-wise, exactly the same. It's just the ergos are slightly different on it, which I think is going to be more suited to what I'm looking for. But just look at that. Look at that profile and tell me that's not a good-looking bike. I don't care for the colours. They tried to sell me on the colours. I don't like the colours. You know, I prefer this just to be in black. And this is, if I'm going to go for something like this, I just want a black bike, right? Black's my kind of favourite colour, as you know, if you watch my channel. But as this front end, I really like. LED lighting all around. Fog lights at the bottom. It just rides really great. What can I say? You know, you feel really heavy on the road. You feel really planted and solid, which is great. When I was on the dual carriageway and, you know, the higher speed roads, it just felt really good. This doesn't have the restriction, the speed restriction, let's say like the K1600B and the Gran America has, because this doesn't have the floorboards or anything like that. So there's no speed restriction. So if I wanted to go to Germany, hit the autobahns, I can just ping this and get up to 140 or whatever it does at top speed. I'm never going to go that speed, but you get my point. There's no restriction on this. The riding position, you feel as if you're on it, you're on the pegs in a conventional bike, not sort of cruiser style, not sort of Harley style, which I kind of got used to the last few years. But you're on it, and just this kind of takes me back to the way my riding used to be, you know, on the bike, in the bike, as it were. Whereas now with the Harley, I'm kind of laid back in an armchair a little bit. So the issue I have with this is, obviously this is, I think, a £25,000 bike. You know, because it's top spec, this one, right? Top spec. Now, I can't justify spending that kind of money. However, what about a used bike? Okay, so the previous generation, which was last year, the year before, which fundamentally is exactly the same bike, but it just doesn't have the TFT screen, which is absolutely fantastic. It's a great screen, really visible, really big, just like on the RT, really impressive. But the previous bikes, I saw one for about 3,000 miles on it, and it was about 15,000. So you're getting all this, whether in a GT or a GTL, and you'll pick it up for 2 years old, let's say, 3, 4, 5,000 miles, for about 16,000 pounds. That's where, if I trade in my Harley and I put the money that I was going to spend on my Harley, that's kind of where I'm at. So for a brand new one, no, I can't stretch to that, and I won't, you know, I'm not going to stand here and tell you, oh yeah, this is going to be perfect. But a used one in the GTL version, which I really need to try to see if the seating position, the riding position is going to suit me, it's a great bike. That's all I can say. It's a fantastic bike. Now, the other thing to note on this is that recently I've been riding quite a few adventure bikes, big ADV bikes, and I'm thinking, well, do I need that kind of all-round bike, that all-round capable bike? You know, you're sat up high, you know, on the bike, commanding the road. Do I need that bike that is going to be the all-purpose, all-singing, all-dancing bike? And I keep on telling myself, I kind of don't. I just need a really good road bike that has that commuting and touring and really comfortable seating position and two-up and all that sort of stuff that I'm looking for, because I'm not going to go off-road riding on a big bike, even though it's a big ADV bike. I just get a smaller bike for that. That fulfills it completely, fulfills it, and that's where I'm at. All the power, all the comfort, and I think just the touring version of that. And I can remove everything, the boxes, the side boxes come off, the top box comes off, and essentially I've got that bike in a touring version with just slightly different seating position. I'm just going to leave it there because I think this is a fantastic bike. I'm just going to have a bit more fun, but all I can say, this has been a brilliant bike. Great bike, even though the weather is a bit crappy and the road's a bit, you know, horrible and slippy. It's been a brilliant bike, and I've taken it off the main roads and onto the really back roads and really narrow tracks and single tracks, just to see how it handles, and it's not too bad. Well, in fact, it's really good, although it's got to keep in mind this is a heavy bike, so you got to catch it right. But overall, I think it's a brilliant bike, and I'm just going to have a bit more fun on it before I take it back. But listen, it's a contender, no doubt, but a used one. Catch you again. Ta-da.